Hello, everyone. Well, it's breaking news. Breaking news right now, right this second. It's been reported that Salman Rushdie has been stabbed. Um, he was giving a speech on freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and he was giving this speech on stage in a certain location, and a masked man ran up on the stage and stabbed Salman Rushdie in the neck. And the security caught the man who did it right away, but he also injured the interviewer that was going to speak to Salman Rushdie. He bashed him in the head, and the guy has maybe a concussion now that was going to interview Salman Rushdie, but Salman Rushdie was stabbed in the neck. The people in the crowd were very concerned. They all poured on stage and they were helping Salman Rushdie. They were putting his legs up in the air so that he could get some blood circulation to his heart. And he was rushed to the hospital where he was given an operation. He was under an operation. They operated on his neck, and there's no news. There's no news at all as to whether he's all right or whether he's going to survive. There's no news yet as to his condition. And I just wanted to say that Salman Rushdie has been there for us. He's been there for us, promoting freedom of speech, upholding our liberties and our freedoms, especially freedom of speech. And this should not have happened. What this man did, he should not have stabbed Salman Rushdie, because Salman Rushdie is speaking out for freedom of speech. And the people who are opposed to freedom of speech are the Iranians. It was the Iranians that put out a fatwa on Salman Rushdie's head, and they banned his book from Iran. His book was the Satanic Verses, and they banned that book in Iran, and they put a fatwa on his head. And then a religious organization that was Iran-based religious organization raised the price of the fatwa from 2.8 million to 3.3 million. So they were going to give $3.3 million to anyone who would stab Salman Rushdie in the neck. So this guy decided to take them up on it and stab Salman Rushdie on the neck. Now he's going to prison. He's not going to see a penny of that fatwa money because there's no way to get it to him. He's going to be in prison. Maybe for the rest of his life, who knows? Depends on whether Salman Rushdie survives or not. But I'm hoping beyond hope that Salman Rushdie survives. Now, as to the content of the Satanic Verses, they involve 3 goddesses. And you know me, I'm all for worship of the goddess whenever or wherever it's found. So I'm all for it. I'm all for these Satanic Verses, celebrating the 3 goddesses that accompany Allah. That he had 3 goddesses accompany Allah, and I approve. I approve of the goddesses. So should not have been called the Satanic Verses, because it's not a satanic verse. It's not a satanic verse. It's celebrating the goddesses. And so wherever and whenever goddess worship is, I'm all for it. So it's sad that they would stab Salman Rushdie over such a thing, over such an issue, because they hate the goddess. They hate her. These men stabbing Salman Rushdie in the neck, they hate the goddess. They hate every manifestation of the goddess in our world. So that is bad. That is bad news. That is bad, 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 bad. And they're just trying to deny that these satanic verses ever existed, but they do. They do. So it's quite a controversy even within Islam, which totally rejects the goddess and all manifestations of the goddess. Um, they reject the goddess and they worship a all male god. Um, shouldn't be that way. They should honor the divine feminine within their religion, but they don't. It's an all male, a male-headed and male-oriented religion. The women in the religion take a back seat. They have to cover their faces and cover their heads and cover up their bodies so that men are not excited by them. I don't like that. I don't like that the women take a back seat in their religion, because we all know that the women, their bodies are like dynamite. They're explosive. They're so radical that men are attracted to them. They have to cover it up because men are so attracted to them. That there's proof. There's proof that the divine feminine is radical because our bodies are so explosive. We're so scandalous, and we pose such a threat to the male dominance, the patriarchy. We're such a threat to the patriarchy with our beautiful bodies that they have to be covered up. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. The goddesses were labeled the satanic verses, and they were willing to kill Salman Rushdie over something so small and so slight. It's not even worth bothering about. But to them it is a bother. To them it is a bother that any inconsistency in their religion that doesn't meet with their stringent standards. They're just picking at picking. They're just picking little slights. The slightest slight will cause them to kill. And that isn't right. That isn't right. That isn't fair. And there should be freedom of speech. I'm all for it. I'm all for the freedom of speech. So Salman Rushdie, today we're praying for him. We're praying that, I know he's like an atheist, but we're praying for him that he pulls through and that he continues to uphold freedom of speech in our world. Freedom of speech, so important. So important. We have to uphold freedom of speech. And so, also in the news, the daughter of Kellyanne Conway has come out as a lesbian. Kellyanne Conway's daughter introduced her partner, maybe it was yesterday or today, I don't remember which, yesterday or today. Kellyanne Conway introduced her partner, not Kellyanne Conway, Kellyanne Conway's daughter, Claudia Conway, introduced her partner and came out as gay and said she's made peace with her mother, Kellyanne Conway. So Claudia Conway has made peace with her mother, Kellyanne. Kellyanne was supposedly verbally abusive of her, at least according to her TikTok videos of her mother screaming. But Claudia Conway has come out as gay today, and let's applaud her. Let's applaud her for exercising her freedoms and being out there as gay. Hard with such a conservative mother for Claudia. Has to be hard for Claudia to be openly out with such a conservative mother. But Claudia came out as gay, and we're all for her. We're applauding her decision to come out as gay and to make it known to the world that she's gay. She's coming out. I'm coming out. Yeah, she's coming out. And so Claudia, we applaud you. We applaud you for exercising your freedom of speech and for coming out as gay, and introducing your partner to us. And we're glad that you've made peace with your mother, Kellyanne. And can't be easy. We know it can't be easy to have a conservative mother when you're gay, but we applaud your bravery. We applaud your bravery, and we applaud you for exercising your freedom of speech. And so she's not closeted anymore. Claudia isn't closeted anymore. Now she's out there, and she's openly gay. What else is in the news? They've raided Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI raided Trump's home. And the Trump supporters are real upset. They're real mad. And they're issuing threats against the government. They're threatening a civil war. And Trump supporters in Congress are supporting him and saying that they should not have invaded his home. And I don't even know why this is news. Just because it was involving a former president. What should be in the news is this anti-inflation bill. You hear about this anti-inflation bill? This anti-inflation bill, they spent something like $742 billion just in one fell swoop with a swipe of the pen. A swipe of a pen, they spent $742 billion, almost $1 trillion, just to lower, supposedly, to lower inflation. As far as I'm concerned, they're just throwing fuel on the fire by spending more money. Just by spending more money, they're throwing fuel on the fire of inflation. There will be more inflation, not less, because of this bill. And the so-called anti-inflation bill spends $330 billion on the environment. What does the environment have to do with curbing inflation? I don't know. That only makes sense to a liberal. I don't know what the environment has to do with inflation. It doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with inflation at all. But they argue, the Democrats argue that it does. That inflation is a direct result of environmental degradation. So they have to spend $330 billion on a clean energy future. And all of this, they couldn't manage to lower insulin costs for people like me who are independent on insulin. They couldn't manage to, the Republicans killed that part of the bill that had to do with insulin, lowering the price of insulin for ordinary working class people. Working people. People who are hard workers and get paid the least in our society still have to pay exorbitant amounts for their insulin because they won't help. The Republicans and the Democrats alike won't help um, people who need their insulin. So they killed that part of the bill, but they're still spending $330 billion on clean energy, so-called clean energy. And they're claiming that the bill will help curb inflation. I don't know how it's going to curb inflation because they're spending $742 billion. That's just going to make inflation worse. And do you know who pays the most for these? It's the $742 billion. Where does that money come from? Right, it comes from disabled people. Disabled people, elderly people, it comes out of Social Security. That's where they get this money from to pay all of this. It's by slashing Social Security for who knows how many years. Maybe the next 20 years they'll slash Social Security. They claim that they were going to increase Social Security, but once a Republican is back in office, boom, they're going to slash Social Security to pay down the national debt. Because the national debt has to be paid. We can't have the United States of America defaulting on their loans. So they're going to slash Social Security to pay off this debt. They're going to slash Social Security to pay off the debt. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel bad. I feel lousy about it because, I lived off of Social Security for many, many years and was disabled myself. And I'm not happy about them slashing Social Security at all. That's what they're going to have to do because that's a major part of the budget of the United States of America. What else will they slash? Probably, well, they never slash military spending. Biden can hardly wait to send military aid abroad, so they're not going to slash military spending, so they'll have to slash Social Security. That'll be the victim of the Biden White House's unrestrained spending. I don't see how Trump could possibly be a worse criminal than the people who are spending so much money like there's no tomorrow. And the people who have to pay, that suffer the consequences, are the most vulnerable among us, the disabled and the people on insulin. They have to pay. They're the ones that have to pay the price for this unrestrained, libertine spending spree of the Democratic Party. The unrestrained spending. So they're going to spend $742 billion at one swipe. And that is supposed to curb inflation. It'll just make inflation worse because inflation is caused by government spending, unrestrained government spending. That's where the inflation came from. And it just reminds me of Carter, because Carter, the gas prices went through the roof. Carter, there was unrestrained inflation. People were spending more on everything. The other day I went to the grocery store. I bought a few items, not very much food, just a little bit of food. And normally it would have cost me $60. Cost me $90 for this little bit of food that I bought at the grocery store. $90. That's a 50% inflationary rate. So you can't claim that the food has only gone up 15%. It's more like 50% for people like me. Just for people like me, 50% inflationary rate at the grocery store. And the prices of restaurant meals have gone up. There's no eating out anymore. Although eating out wouldn't be that much more than what I'm spending for a single meal from the grocery store. It's all expensive no matter where you go. It's expensive for meals wherever you go. Whatever you do, wherever you go, it's unrestrained inflation. 50%. That's what it really is. When they tell you it's 15%, it's really 50%. Because they look at staples that are the least expensive to say that it's gone up 15%. They look at sugar, flour, oil, bread, eggs, things that are cheap, and say, "Oh, it's only gone up 15%." Yeah, but what if you want a frozen meal or Ore-Ida fries, or what if you want frozen onion rings, or cake? Then the price is more like 50%. It's more like a 50% rate of inflation on prepared foods. So they lie when they say it's only 15%. Don't believe them. It's more like 50% inflation. It's outrageous and it's unbelievable. Now the price of gas finally came down a little bit. That's good. The price of gas came down probably because they spent $742 billion to bring down the price of gas. But everything else is through the roof right now. The prices are through the roof. Literally, I'm just telling you right now, the prices are through the roof. People that spend that much money, they're crooks. They're pure and simple crooks. They should be the ones prosecuted and investigated, not Trump. I mean, Trump is bad enough, okay? Trump is bad enough, but without this, the what the Democrats are doing now to our country, bankrupting America. Bankrupting America, that's what they're doing. I mean, isn't that a crime? Shouldn't that be a crime to rob the American taxpayer wholesale and slash welfare funding and Social Security so that you can pay these exorbitant spending sprees? They paid for luxury hotels. That's what they paid for. They paid for luxury hotels. And now Angie Craig is trying to defend herself and say, "Oh, your attack ads are a diaper that's going into a diaper pail." Boom. There it goes. There goes the diaper into the diaper pail. That's how Angie Craig is defending herself. But she voted for it. She voted for this unrestrained spending. The American taxpayer gets hurt. The disabled and elderly get hurt. They're going to rob Social Security to pay these bills in the future. Just telling you, that's just what's going to happen, is they're going to rob Social Security to pay these bills. And who started this unrestrained spending? It was Biden. Biden and his leadership of the Democratic Party, they started this unrestrained spending and passed it through Congress, passed it through all the filibusters, all the threats not to spend that much money. They managed to pass all their bills and to do unrestrained spending that would bankrupt America. That's who the real criminals are, as far as I'm concerned. They should be held accountable. So that's it. Brief note, Anne Heche is in a coma, and they're going to donate her organs to charity to help people who need organs, who are sick and in need of an organ transplant. So that's the only good thing that came out of what Anne Heche did. It was bad. It was so bad, and I'm not sure I can forgive her. I'll try to forgive her, but I'm not sure I can forgive her for what she's done. So take care. Let's fight the unrestrained spending that's going on right now. Let's send Democrats a message that unrestrained spending will not be tolerated in the future. We didn't vote for you to spend America's future away in just a few strokes of a pen. That's not why Democrats were sent to the Oval Office or to Congress. Wasn't so that they could spend unrestrained like libertines. It was because they didn't like what Trump was saying. They thought that they didn't like Trump's freedom of speech. They didn't like what Trump was saying, and they decided to punish Trump for exercising his freedom of speech. Well, now we have unrestrained spending. That's the consequence. So think about that this November. Think about the unrestrained spending and how the American taxpayer and the poorest among us have been robbed of their future by unrestrained spending and unrestrained taxation. And I'll see you next time.